Good evening and welcome to Up South, where the top focus today on this show is the arrest of two IS recruits and the manner in which it has shaken up the Bengaluru and Hyderabad city police. If it was Mehdi Biswas in December in Bengaluru, it was Salman Mohyuddin in Hyderabad last week. And in both cases, the Intelligence Bureau is finding that they had managed to indoctrinate many more people, and the effort is now on to find out who those more youth are. In Hyderabad's case, they say that he must have indoctrinated or at least made contact with at least 10 to 15 more youth. The Telangana police has asked for 15 days of more remand to interrogate Salman Mohyuddin. Meanwhile, the Bengaluru police has decided to step up its surveillance in the social media space. Rohini Swami sent us this report.
The police at India's Silicon Valley have decided to set up a dedicated social media monitoring lab to track down terror-related activities. The police have found increased usage of social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter as a playground for terror activities. This has forced the Bengaluru police to upgrade their intelligence team, monitoring the chatter on social media platforms and track down the online black sheep.
मीडिया लैब जो है वो मेरे ख्याल से भारत देश के परिप्रेक्ष्य में अगर देखें तो एक नया कॉन्सेप्ट है, जिसमें कि अभी जो हमारे जो सोशल साइट्स होते हैं वो अभी फेसबुक आप कहिए, ट्विटर कहिए, व्हाट्सएप कहिए, इंस्टाग्राम कहिए, उसके अलावा जो टॉक रे और ये स्काइप और बहुत सारे जो हैं उसके इसमें जो चैट लोग करते हैं, मैसेजिंग करते हैं, तो इसमें जो चलता है तो बहुत सारा उनको एक प्राइवेसी रहता है और वो जो बात करते हैं वो रियल टाइम में पुलिस को पता नहीं चलता है, जिसके कारण से कानून और जो लॉ एंड ऑर्डर की बात करेंगे तो वो जो है भंग होने की बहुत बार तो संभावना रहती है.
The social media lab is expected to be operational by March this year. Equipped with advanced communication devices and experts from IIT Delhi, the lab is expected to help in not just tracking but also solving internet-related crimes. With Rohini Swami, Bureau Report, Headlines Today.
Joining me now from Hyderabad is former DGP of Andhra Pradesh Police, C. Anjaney Reddy, also my colleague Rohini Swami, joining me from Bengaluru. Mr. Anjaney Reddy, if I may come to you first. Now, the arrest of two ISIS sympathizers in Bengaluru and in Hyderabad, both are techies. In a sense, the profile of this radical has astounded the police force in both cities. As someone who has headed the police force, what do you think needs to be done as far as policing is concerned to handle these kind of radical elements?
Well, this is a new problem, young people taking to this kind of thing, some kind of cyber terrorism. We will have to, police will have to redeploy its resources and acquire expertise to do some kind of cyber surveillance. They will have to monitor all these things like modern things like Twitter, Facebook, and even internet correspondence on internet. They will have to develop that expertise. It may not be possible to immediately develop in-house expertise. They will have to hire professionals. So there should be a provision that people provision to take people on contract, professionals to be taken on contract to do this job within the police department. They cannot wait till expertise builds up within the department. They will have to immediately acquire those powers to employ people on contract. They should redeploy their resources. They should get into this mode of cyber surveillance.
Right. Rohini, we just saw in your report that the fact that India's IT capital is home to such tech-savvy radicals and such elements has obviously made the Bengaluru police sit up and take note. Now, the Cyberabad police had also tried something similar here in Hyderabad. Now, how exactly does the Bengaluru police hope to go about monitoring the social media space?
Well, they have looked at it in a way that they said they will create the most advanced social media lab for the police. The point that they're putting is that communication devices also will be extremely advanced because they need to listen in to what is happening, especially on the internet. Now, the fact that there are people like Mehdi Biswas and like Salman Mohyuddin who have come out in the open has obviously made it very important that there's a need to monitor the cyberspace. Now, what they're saying is they're going to do it in steps that not only are they going to educate the police personnel in various levels, but also they're going to be using experts. They're going to be a separate team. The Karnataka Home Minister has just briefed the media, and he has said there will be a separate intelligence team set separately only to tackle terror cases.
Right. Right. Mr. Anjane Reddy, now this job of creating anti-terrorism filters is done to a limited extent by the counterintelligence cells in different states and cities of India. You think that's not good enough?
Counterintelligence cell is also good enough, but then it's how counterintelligence is, they've been doing it in a kind of traditional way. Now they will have to go into this cyber, what do you call it, areas. They'll have to go into
Right.
internet, how to monitor internet correspondence between the suspected people, and whether they're to scrutinize and to monitor their Facebook and Twitter accounts and all those things. I don't know whether law enables them to do that right now. If it doesn't enable them, they will have to acquire enabling powers. They will have to acquire enabling powers and do that. And then the expertise also should be acquired by way of taking people in contract.
Right. Rohini, obviously all of this will have to be seen in the context of the fact that we are just days away from the Republic Day. President of the United States, Obama, is going to be our chief guest. So obviously there is a lot of tension as far as the police force in different cities and states are concerned. We have had 4 arrests being made from Bhatkal in Karnataka. You mentioned that the Home Minister has just had a meeting. What do you think is really going to be the approach taken by the city and the state police of Karnataka?
Well, the approach is very simple. Bangalore, also the security in Bangalore and around Bangalore will be like a fortress, just like we saw on 31st of December. Same kind of system with security personnel being deployed, additional security from other places also being brought in, but also the use of drones and other kind of security cameras being used. The point that is being made is here, Bangalore has a close connection not just with the United States, but also the fact that there are lots of, like we have seen, this is the Silicon Valley of the country. So a lot of monitoring
Right.
also on the internet, a lot of monitoring taking place in parallel. So Bangalore, for that matter, will turn out to be a fortress, especially for Jan 26th.
Right. Rohini Swami and Mr. Anjane Reddy, thanks a lot for joining us there from Bengaluru and Hyderabad. News now from Tamil Nadu. What really transpired at that Poise Garden meeting on Sunday between former Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Jayalalitha and Union Finance Minister Arun Jaitley? Well, the DMK and other opposition parties have called the meeting improper. Shisha Reddy sent us this report from Chennai.
This Sunday evening meeting between Union Finance Minister Arun Jaitley and AIADMK Chief Jayalalitha has set tongues wagging in political circles, both in Chennai and in New Delhi. Though the AIADMK described the 40-minute-long meeting as a courtesy call, the DMK alleged that there is more than what meets the eye. Former Chief Minister M. Karunanidhi questioned the propriety in Jaitley meeting Jayalalitha. In a statement, he said, "Is it proper for a union minister to meet a convicted person? I'm reminded of the saying, cat is out of the bag." Jaitley meets Jayalalitha when his ministry is dealing with her out-of-court settlement in IT case. Law ministers meeting Jayalalitha ahead of Acid's case verdict raised controversy. Law minister had also visited Bangalore when the verdict was to be given.
I don't know how and why Jaitley had met Jayalalitha. Even though it is called as a courtesy call, she was convicted. She was an accused and was convicted for 4 years imprisonment. It is not fair on the part of a union minister to go and meet her.
The BJP and AIADMK camps, however, say only important national issues were discussed, including the AIADMK's objection to the goods services tax, which the NDA government is keen on.
We've ensured and cushioned all the states that no state will lose a single rupee of revenue. A seamless transfer of goods and services is going to add to the GDP. It will make business easier. In the long run, it may even lower taxes. And higher buoyancy is going to help the states.
There is nothing to do with the case. The case is in the court and the government can't indulge in these issues.
With Srisha Reddy in Chennai, Bureau Report, Headlines Today.
Joining me now from Chennai is my colleague Shesha Reddy, also political analyst Jnani Shankaran joining us. Mr. Shankaran, a lot of criticism there for Arun Jaitley meeting Jayalalitha. What is your opinion on this? Was it okay for a union finance minister to meet someone who the DMK describes as a convicted person?
See, definitely it sends wrong signals to both the public as well as the people in the judiciary and all opinion makers on the bureaucracy. When someone who has been convicted is met by a very senior union cabinet minister, and that too going out of the way, going to her house and meeting her, saying it's a courtesy call. So what is the courtesy involved? So this sends definitely wrong signals to all people concerned in the society. And the BJP, which always claims that is a very moralistic party and an ethical party, and that it is a party with a difference, is behaving in such a way.
The NDA government, of course, wants the AIDMK support of 11 MPs, especially in the Rajya Sabha. But everyone will obviously look at what turn the disproportionate assets case takes in the Karnataka High Court. In that case, depending on the verdict, it will also raise a lot of doubts depending on what turn the case takes. You agree with that, Mr. Shankaran?
See, BJP wanted to mobilize more support in the Rajya Sabha. What it should have done is ask this Parliamentary Affairs Minister to talk to the Parliamentary Group Leader of AIDMK in the floor and look for floor arrangements there. Then it is still technically legal, and even it's not all that immoral if you want to solve that issue. They don't have to come all the way to Chennai and meet Jayalalitha, who is facing a trial. See, Jayalalitha herself is not meeting the public. She is kind of locked up in her own home. She doesn't meet public at all. She keeps to herself, and perhaps she herself feels that she can meet the public only when she is exonerated. So when she is feeling that way, why should somebody else go and meet her, particularly somebody in the Union Cabinet Minister?
Right. Mr. Shankaran there, Shisha, making a very important point that Jayalalitha is not meeting any member of the public. She has met very few ministers in the Pannirselvam cabinet in Tamil Nadu. Now, the opposition voices of criticism obviously are understandable. But how does the common man on the street in Chennai look at this? Does he or she also smell a conspiracy?
Well, Sudhir, not exactly, because, as far as Jaitley and Jayalalitha's meeting is concerned, this is the first high-profile meeting. In fact, after Jayalalitha came out on bail, because she has not been meeting and she has not been even sending greetings to people except the one that she extended greetings on the Pongal day. And even before that, she did not extend greetings. Yes, of course, common man, this has not gone into deeply, though the AIDMK maintains that it's just a courtesy call. It's much more than what meets the eye. Though the centre wants AIDMK's support to wake up a lot of issues, including the audience and other things that we have been speaking about. But yes, the common man sees it as just another move, for the BJP to woo AIDMK, because remember, AIDMK is the second largest party in the Lok Sabha to have at least 37 MPs and 11 Rajya Sabha MPs. So yes, of course, a crucial meeting, in fact. But yes, the opposition parties are keeping a close eye on what is going to happen, because there are a lot of pending issues that's been left. Sudhir.
Right, Shisha Reddy and Jnani Shankaran, thanks a lot. Shisha, we will come back to you for another story from Chennai in just a while. But meanwhile, after Sakshi Maharaj, Shankaracharya and various other Hindutva voices, now a chief minister has come out in the open and asked people to have more children. This is Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Nara Chandrababu Naidu, who said in West Godavari district that there should be more youth in the economy to drive the economy, and therefore couples should have more children. Let's listen in to what Chandrababu Naidu said in West Godavari district.
వాళ్ళ సంఖ్య పెరుగుతుంది, పుట్టే వాళ్ళ సంఖ్య తగ్గిపోతే మన ఊర్లో అంతా ముసలి వాళ్లే కనపడుస్తారు కొన్ని రోజుల తర్వాత. ఈరోజు జపాన్ లోనే జరిగింది. ఆ దేశం అంతా ముసలోళ్ళే. దేశం పూర్తిగా చిన్నపిల్లలు లేకుండా పోయే పరిస్థితి వచ్చింది. అందుకే ఇప్పటి నుంచి మళ్ళా ఆలోచిస్తున్నా, వీలైతే ఒకరిద్దరిని ఎక్కువగా పుట్టిస్తే నష్టం లేదు, కానీ అసలు ఫ్యామిలీ ప్లానింగ్ లాభం లేదు.
To find out if that's going to be Andhra Pradesh government's new mantra as far as the size of the family and family planning is concerned, let me cut across to Parakala Prabhakar, communications advisor to the Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister. Mr. Prabhakar, a lot of chatter has been happening about how many children you should have. Some say 4, some say 5, some say 10. Chandrababu Naidu seems to have chosen the wrong time to actually get into a discussion of this sort.
No, I think it's taken out of context. What he was trying to say after his recent Japan visit, he had seen a society which is full of old people. And in India, we are enjoying a huge demographic dividend. And now we are in Andhra Pradesh as well as in India, probably we have reached a stabilization or replacement rate of growth. And if we continue to do this and young people are not interested in producing more children, what will happen is that the same kind of fate which Japan has now, or some of the northern European countries, where there are more retired people, more old people than the young people or working population. We should not get into that, and the kind of demographic dividend that India has now, we should continue to enjoy that kind of a demographic dividend. It is in that context, in a very limited point that he has made. He is not trying to say that, as the media has made out to be, that, produce more children, not that kind of a thing, and not in that kind of a spirit.
Right. So, Mr. Prabhakar, is this going to be part of Andhra Pradesh government's policy asking couples in Andhra Pradesh to produce more children?
Far from it. It's not. It's not a policy statement by the Chief Minister. It is only trying to draw the attention of the society to what is happening around the world, especially the developed countries, where there is more retired population than the working population. In fact, the base is that you have a huge non-working population supported by fewer and fewer working population. That's the only limited point that the Chief Minister had made. It is not a policy statement.
Right. Fair enough, Mr. Parakala Prabhakar. Thanks a lot for joining us with that clarification from Hyderabad. News now from Chennai. In yet another shocking incident, an 8-day-old baby caught fire spontaneously and has been admitted to the Kulpak Medical College Hospital in Chennai. This is the second baby in the family to catch fire spontaneously. Earlier, the woman's first son also caught fire when he was 2.5 months old. Joining me now from Chennai is my colleague Shisha Reddy. Shisha, explain to our viewers what exactly is this happening? What are the doctors telling you?
Well, Sudhir, in the month of August in 2013, this couple, Rajeshwari and Karnan, had brought a baby, the 2.5-month-old baby, saying that the baby caught fire on its own. And there was an investigation that was launched in 2013, but the investigation revealed that, the baby did not have the spontaneous human combustion, which is a syndrome that the baby can catch fire on its own. So, though, yes, there have been cases reported in the past, but in the last 300 years, according to the doctors, this is something that they have not seen, in India. So this was some peculiar case for them in 2013. But now the same couple has come again with, the second child, a 9-day-old child, which they say that the baby caught fire on its own and the legs have been swollen and they have been admitted to the same hospital. So yes, the police, the doctors are not ruling out the fact that the baby might have ignited on its own. But again, they have sent this report for investigation as well. But one has to wait and see whether what kind of investigation will this bring in, because last time the father said the government should do something because the entire family was on the streets because the fire that came in with the baby had burnt the entire house. So this time as well, they are seeking support from the government. So one has to wait to know what exactly is this, whether it was it is a case of spontaneous human combustion or it's just a case so that they can get something, some remuneration from the government. Sudeep?
Right. Shisha, quickly, what is the condition of this child and are they planning to get in some foreign experts to look at this very peculiar case?
So the baby is kept under intensive care unit and there is a committee that have been set up to monitor the baby and what the baby is up to. Again, if I can bring in one interesting angle that what happened last time is that they said the baby caught fire 4 times, but when they had put the baby on under observation, the baby did not catch fire. So even in this case, the baby is critical, but yes, it is under observation. So yes, they will be investigating and the report will be out in a day or 2.
Among the many gifts that President Obama will receive during his visit to India this weekend will be colorful toys that will come all the way from the toy town of Channapatna in Karnataka, which is about 60 kilometers from capital city Bengaluru. It will be a perfect ad for the Make in India slogan of the Government of India, and the Karnataka government in fact supports 2,000 artisans in this toy town of Channapatna.
Talented artisans of the toy town of Karnataka, Chennapatna, 60 kilometers from Bengaluru, are giving the finishing touches to American President Barack Obama's gifts. These toys will be presented by the Karnataka government to India's chief guest on Republic Day.
ಭವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಟಿದ್ರು. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ಮುಂದಿನ ಗಣರಾಜ್ಯೋತ್ಸವ ದಿನ ಒಬಾಮ ಅವರು ನಮ್ಮ ಭಾರತಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಮಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆ ಒಂದು ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಸ್ತಬ್ಧ ಚಿತ್ರ ನಮ್ಮ ಚನ್ನಪಟ್ಟಣದ ಗೊಂಬೆಯನ್ನ ಸ್ತಬ್ಧ ಚಿತ್ರವಾಗಿ ಮೆರವಣಿಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆ ಒಂದು ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಅದು ಸಂತೋಷದ ವಿಚಾರ.
Channapatna's toys are called lacquer toys since they use lac, and the 2,000 artisans are provided marketing support by the Karnataka Handicrafts Development Corporation. The gift, the government believes, would be the best advertisement for the Make in India slogan. With Pratibha Raman, Bureau Report, Headlines Today.